You're listening to the Ordinary Joe's podcast with Joe D and Eric B. Ordinary Joe's podcast.
All right, we are back from a short little vacation that we had. Personal things that we were doing. We are back. I didn't tell you guys on the Instagram what was going on. I just felt like, you know what? We'll get back on when we get back on. And today
keep you on your toes.
is the day that we're back on. We're doing something different. We're going to do what we did a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. We were doing movie reviews that HBO Max released. And just the other day, they released Conjuring. What's it called? Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It?
The Devil Made Me Do It, yeah.
Kind of scary. Kind of weird. You little. All right, this podcast has ended. We are done because the asshole over there just showed an Annabelle sign. Man, we didn't even make it to the intro.
I figured you enjoyed that.
And I am done. Thank you so much. That's Joe right there.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, man. All right, man. Let's get this started. I am Eric B.
And I'm Joe D. And we are
The Ordinary Joes. Oh, God. Jesus. For you guys who are not watching on YouTube, who's not watching us on YouTube, if you watch the movie Annabelle, that one scene, we're in the beginning of Conjuring, the very beginning of Conjuring 1 that was released in 2013, they showed Annabelle, and the teens who got Annabelle, there's a little sign that says "Miss Me" that was written in crayon. I'm getting goosebumps because Joe showed me that in the middle of this, and we're talking about this whole Conjuring thing that we're doing. And
I was on vacation. I wanted to make sure that you missed me.
Yeah, he was on vacation. And yes, Joe, we did miss you. It's been 3 weeks that we haven't done a podcast. I did a podcast a couple, weeks ago.
You did. I did a couple good ones, actually.
I did that one. And then now it's the Ordinary Joe's back doing the Ordinary Joe's type podcast.
Yeah. Sorry, my camera's not focusing right now.
Because Annabelle is sitting behind you.
Yeah, see? That's not even funny.
Annabelle.
It'll work itself out.
You see,
oh, man.
If you guys look in the corner over Joe's left shoulder or right shoulder, Annabelle's peeking her way out right over there.
Oh, man.
Oh, okay. Man. All right, man. Joe, go ahead and get this started. You can do what you normally do.
Yeah, man. Well, first off, let me say it's good to be back. Happy Sunday to you, brother. It's been a while. Kind of missed all this stuff. You don't think you will, but it's like Sunday rolls around and you're like, oh man, I should be podcasting right now.
Yeah.
But Conjuring 3, man. This is kind of weird, but it was a little bittersweet for me.
Okay.
And that's a weird way to kind of describe a scary movie, but I'm gonna go backtrack to the first 2 Conjurings, right, or the first one.
Yes.
We spoke about these on another podcast when we did like horror movies and stuff. And for me, someone who's loved horror movies, grown up watching horror movies, it's kind of hard to scare me. I mean, been watching them since I was 6 years old. The bar that I set as far as scary movies is The Exorcist. And I think that's probably the same for a lot. And no movie has scared me the way The Exorcist did up until the first Conjuring movie. So I was really excited about this one coming out. I didn't know it was coming out. I don't know if you knew they were even making it. I just was flipping on HBO Max and it was there. I was like, oh, cool. Now, that's the sweet part. The bitter part is that the original director of the first 2, James Wan, didn't direct this movie.
Yes.
And I was really bummed out about that because he's an amazing director. For those of you who don't know, he did the Insidious series. He did the first Saw, I believe, and he did some other non-scary movies. But as far as that genre goes, that's kind of his thing. So I was a little bummed out, but it does not disappoint.
Yes.
It's scary. Compared to the other 2, I don't think it's as scary, but I think if you're watching it by yourself, if it's, late night and you're watching it, you're gonna be under your covers in like 2 seconds. But I enjoyed it. Julian Hillard, the kid that played David Gladskill, I believe, the little boy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Amazing. This kid, he does the whole possessed voice and the screaming and I was like, oh my God, this kid is give that kid a Grammy. I mean, an Oscar. Like,
I mean, he sold it, right? In the beginning, he sold it. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like half of the time I was watching, this is me watching the whole beginning scene. I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but when I watch a scary movie, and especially at home, when you're sitting on your couch and you're watching everything at home, this is me half the time when I'm watching the movie. I am looking on my phone because I don't want to see what the next shit is that's popping up versus all that other stuff. Joe's having camera issues with. I don't know what's going on.
Fine until we hit record.
But for you guys who are listening to us on the podcast, you should hear us clearly and not worry about it. For you guys who are on YouTube, that is Joe.
That's me.
Annabelle behind him. So that's what's going on. But yeah, man, that just that opening scene, just like every horror movie. Usually you have to wait somewhere in the middle because they want to talk up a story, right? But for you guys who don't know anything about Conjuring, it's the Lorraine and Ed Warren. They're true paranormal investigators who just this year, was it this year or last year, where Ed Warren passed away?
Oh, I don't know. I always assumed he had passed away years ago.
No, he passed away recently, and it wasn't because of COVID. He passed away because of old age. But these two are like well known in their paranormal everything from the ghost hunters that we watch on TV. So these guys are the staples of paranormal investigators, and they don't just investigate like knocking on the doors and shit like that, right? If you guys seen the first Conjuring, and that thing was whole possessed, 2013's Possessed. And so a lot of their stuff are true story, true everything. And if you guys don't know, Conjuring, Annabelle, The Nun, and then I just found out yesterday, and I was telling Joe, The Curse of La Llorona all ties into, one whole movie.
It's the Conjuring universe. They're calling it, kind of like Marvel.
The Marvel, and it's funny because the Curse of La Llorona, I watched it just because I said, okay, what does this have to do with Conjuring or the Warrens?
It's La Llorona.
La Llorona. Sorry to my Spanish-speaking people. It's La Llorona.
Because you're gonna offend somebody named Lorena.
I did. You know what? I've already did. Like Lorena. I'm not Conjuring. Okay, it's my terrible accent. Yeah, so I don't want to offend anybody by the name of Lorena, because it's La Llorona.
Yes, the crier or something like that. I don't know.
The weeping widow or the weeping wife or the weeping bride or something like that. And it's funny because I went to the Mission here in San Francisco last year during COVID, and there's a beautiful mural of her. And it doesn't even show like the tragic part of her. It just shows the weeping lady, and there's a bunch of kids around her. And it's this nice, I forget where it was, 24th and somewhere down in that area. But it's a really nice mural. And after seeing that mural and watching that movie yesterday, it's like, nope.
Yeah, I think, and you had touched on it a little bit before. I think what really makes all these movies scary in this kind of universe that they have is that they all are based somewhat on a true story. They come from something real. Like, obviously they embellish and they kind of make it over the top to make it really scary. But the fact that these are real people and they were, possessed or being haunted, and then, at the end of every movie they show the actual pictures of the people, and I'm just like, why? Like, to me, that's scarier sometimes than the movie, because I'm like, damn, these people really went through something. Like, and I feel like, call me superstitious, or I grew up in a super religious family. Like, they always talk about kind of like bringing bad, aura to you or bad spirits to you, so you do certain things to avoid all that. And like sometimes I feel like, is me watching this movie like keeping me open to demons that want to come visit?
Do I not want to do that? No, it's funny because, like you mentioned, The Exorcist, right? The Exorcist, when we watched The Exorcist growing up in the 70s and 80s, you were like, you waited. Someone told you it was a true story, and then you're like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't true. We didn't have the internet back then, right?
Right.
Nowadays, when you watch the Conjurings or anything that has to do with the Warrens, and at the end of the movie, like you said, they play footage of, like in this one that we watched, they played the actual recordings of the little boy being possessed by the devil. And it's like that right there. That's not acting, You hear him going, get away, get out of me. You hear all that. So you're just like,
And then you hear, like, I'm assuming that was maybe his mom and like sister's reaction of them, like, get out of my son and all, all this stuff. It's like, that was more chilling than the movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I thought I was done. We had the credits rolling and I'm washing dishes and I'm hearing that. And I go over to my wife. I'm like, is that actual like footage? She's like, yeah. And she's terrified of scary movies.
Yeah.
So I mean, she's like, yeah,
we'll go back to my hair. It's like, and I have all the lights off too for today's show, and I don't know why. But we'll go back to 2013 when they first came out, when they first introduced the Warrens to us, and the house that was, I forgot if the house was possessed because someone killed the people in that house. And,
I believe that's what it was.
And that movie was kind of like a build up because there was no, it wasn't scary right away, but when they moved into a house and they're doing that stupid hide and go seek or blind whatever, and they're like, clap. Yep. And then, you got to try to find. And then when the mom does it, and that
scene right there, that you just described, that whole scene when the dad comes in and everybody's screaming and all the shit's going on, the way, the sequence of that whole scene, how they did it, it's fucking terrifying. It is.
My God.
The thing about James Wan that I love is most horror movies, you get a break in the scary.
Yeah.
Like you get that little patch where you catch your breath, your heart rate goes down. Maybe they're eating lunch. Maybe they're doing something, nice. No, there's no break. And then before it's like, okay, at least daytime, you're cool. Maybe some furniture might move. Nah, daytime is just as scary as nighttime. So it's like, it keeps you on your toes the whole movie. You're just like, oh, just stop it already. Like,
yes, James Wan. I mean, definitely he's one of those directors where you can tell from 2013 to 2021, this new one that just came out, you can tell James Wan had nothing to do with it. If he did, I mean, don't get me wrong, this movie was already freaky just in the beginning. Yeah. They kept to the true story of, or they showed us the viewers how scary this situation was back in 1970 something that this whole thing happened. Now, whenever I watch a movie, I told you, I try to imagine myself in that situation. Now, that scene where the boy is on the table and they're trying to do the whole, exorcism on him, and then he starts shifting his body and you can hear the bones cracking. I'm thinking, if I was the guy that played Arnie, right? If I was the guy, the boyfriend who loved that family, if I was him or anybody there and I started seeing that, I'd be like, I gotta go.
Yeah, I'm done.
It's like, hey, Debbie, I love you.
It's been real.
Don't love you that much.
It's not you, it's me.
No,
your son.
You're right. It's you. It's you, your brother, your whole family, this creepy ass house.
Yeah. I always think of one of Eddie Murphy's jokes from Raw when he talks about if that would have been them going into the Amityville horror house and they walk in like, oh, this is such a beautiful home. It's like, get out. It's like, too bad we can't stay.
See you later. Gotta go. Go. No, but just the movie alone, just the whole storyline. And again, this is from one of the Warren stories that they decided, let's go ahead and do it. And the whole thing where they were trying to fight the whole court system on, hey, he was possessed. He wasn't crazy. He was possessed, and that's the reason why he killed him. I was like, man, if they can win I mean, we already knew what happened because, of course, you watch the whole story or you Google it on Google and you're like, wow, they actually beat the court system and got him on, just manslaughter and not first degree murder.
Yeah. I forget what's the husband's name? Warren. I don't know his first name. Ed Warren.
Ed and Lorraine, yeah.
Yeah. He made a great point of when he said the government acknowledges God, when everything and God we trust and the what do you call that when you put your hand on the Bible or court. So he's like, it's about time they start acknowledging that the devil exists too, and that like gave me chills, because I'm like, he's got such a good point. Yeah. So you can't believe in God and not believe in the devil, and that just
it takes two, right? There's both of them. What I loved about the movie is when they were trying to convince the attorney. They're like, she's like, well, one, you got to convince them, and then two, you got to convince me. And, right now I'm not convinced. So he's like, okay, well, why don't you give us a couple of days? Why don't you come over our house? And then he goes, we'll show you Annabelle, and then you can make up your mind from there. And then they cut to the next scene. And it's like, she's back in court. We're going to find him innocent of, I was like, oh, I guess I wish they showed us that scene.
Me too. I'm like, it would have been funny just to see what the hell scared her.
It's like, what scared her enough to say, shit, you're right. Now, have you seen any of the Annabelles that came out?
I've seen everything. I'm like I said, I'm a Conjuring fan, so I've watched, The Nun, all of those I've watched. Which is why I said I was surprised because I didn't know they were doing a third Conjuring movie. So when I seen it, I was like, ooh, glad I watched it at like 12 in the afternoon because. The first Conjuring movie I saw in the movie theater in the afternoon, and there was like barely anybody in the movie theater. It was like a handful of us. And I was so scared that I went to Union Square and just to sit in the daylight and be around people. I was just sitting there just like enjoying the day because I was like, that was fucking scary.
Joe's like, please don't clap. Please don't clap. Please don't clap. That movie killed me so much just because you had kids involved in that movie. Mm-hmm. And you have three girls who are messing around and you don't know if they were serious or they were messing around. And just that one scene where they're in the bedroom and then they were like, why are you touching me? She's like, I'm not touching you. She goes, it's like, what are you talking about? And then I don't know what they were sitting on the TV stand or whatever that thing was. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, Nancy, behind you. And then she turns around and there's like this evil thing sitting up there. I was like, oh shit, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
That's what I mean. The sequencing and the setups for the scares are just amazing. Amazing. You don't see that. Now let me ask you, I have a theory. Right?
Joe's theory.
Do you agree that this movie isn't as scary as the first two? Or do you think it holds up?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because the first two, when we talk about the 2013 and the one they did in London, right? Mm-hmm. The second one introduced us to Velik, right? And the second one introduced us to an evil nun, but it still had the same concept as the possessed. Mm-hmm. This one actually showed us more of who is possessing the person, why the person is being possessed, why. I kind of wish they went into detail. I'm pretty sure they did, and I didn't really pay attention because I was too busy looking at my phone because I was scared. But I'm pretty sure they said why she was attacking that family. Why did she pick that family, right? I mean,
I don't remember, but I'm sure they do. Yeah.
I'm sure they did. I wasn't listening. So that kind of brought us to, okay, this witch, I forget what her name was, the witch, the Oculus is what they call her, the Oculus. She picked that family to be possessed because the devil needed a soul or something like that. Mm-hmm. They were saying at the end of the movie. So this kind of gave us more of, why, right? Where the first two, you were just scared from the beginning. From the beginning to the middle, and then towards the end is when they started saying why this is going on, why this is happening. This had enough scary stuff inside or in it for me to be like, this is scary. But compared to the first two, I still think number one is always going to be the most scariest because hell, we went into that movie not knowing what this movie was about. Yeah. Number two, we expected to be scared because we knew what the first one was about, but this was still scary again. The whole Velik, the nun, the whole thing that came on, that shit right there freaked me out. And then this third one, it had an evil trait to it that you knew, hell, whenever you have a priest involved in anything, that's going to freak you out,
especially because it takes a lot for the Vatican to approve an exorcism or a priest doing a lot of stuff like that. So that adds to the kind of scariness. But you made a good point of, the first two movies, you're taking the perspective of the family or whoever's, being haunted because you don't know what's going on. You're being scared just as much as them. And this one, you're kind of the insider, what it is. Yeah. And I don't know if that's just as scary, but my theory is that for these type of movies, it is really, really hard, I think, to make a trilogy of scary movies and it not be scared, because it's like, you look at Saw, you look at this one, there's a few others, Freddy Krueger and all those other ones. Like you said, the first one, you don't know what to expect. Yeah. The second one, you know what to expect and you're waiting for it. Now the third one comes around. It's like, all right, well, I've already seen the nun. You've already revealed what's scary. So there's a lot more work that has to go into trying to creep me out, which is why I think this is a really good movie, because you have big shoes to fill with the first two movies. So now with this one, what are you going to do? Where do you go with it? So I appreciated the attempt, and I think it's, like you said, it's still a scary movie. I wouldn't watch it by myself. Yeah. But yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe that's why he backed out of it. Because he's known for that. Apparently, he did the I think first two Saw movies, and then backed out. He did the Insidious, no more of those. So I'm wondering if that's maybe how he feels. What more can I do for this?
What else can I do to make this, movie better than it already is? What I like about James Wan and what he did was he took Patrick Wilson, Ed Warren, who played Ed Warren, and put him in Insidious, right? He was the dad in Insidious. So in the movie Insidious and in here, I got confused. I'm like, I was like, wait a minute, is this the movie? Is Conjuring 1 the movie where the little boy's in the living room and he's dancing to that Tiptoe song? Yeah. And it's like, no, that's Insidious. I'm like, okay. But the same dad was in there, right? Yeah. So
it's funny that you say that, because I just had this conversation today as to why I'm not a fan of American Horror Story. Yeah. And I just can't get into the same fucking actors every season. I'm like, first off, they're not that good of actors to play all these. Second, I get confused. And third, I'm like, why can't you just hire some new people? Like, what's the deal? So I'm sure it's good. I know a lot of people have given great feedback on those, but yeah, not to get off topic, but that I can't really get into it for that reason.
You're right. I I totally agree with you on that part. But yeah, Patrick Wilson's a good actor. Bar none. He was in Aquaman, and I was like, why was he going to be an Aquaman when this is the Conjuring dude, right? But he actually impressed me in Aquaman because I didn't think I can take him off the Conjuring role, right? Yeah. And for him to actually turn off and then be Ed Warren and act the way, even the hairdo. Like you saw this movie, the hairdo, I was like, dude, this is straight 70s haircut. The little pump in the front. I'm like, oh man, this is definitely.
Did you notice that too, though, by the way, that they made them look more like the Warrens in this movie than they did in the other two? Her hair was like, what's her name? Vera Farmiga. Yeah. She plays Mrs. Warren. She's got the older hair now. They made her look older. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
They did. I loved how they did that. I loved how they were like, okay, let's make them look kind of like them, but still be them. And the director, I don't see, let me see who directed this one. Those guys, Michael Chavez is the director. He did a good job on getting this stuff together. and getting them be who they are. They're still Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, but to us they were the Warrens, right? I mean, the three Conjurings that we saw, even in Annabelle. Which one were they in? Annabelle Comes Home. Is that the one?
Geez, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the one.
Because there's been a few.
Yeah, 2019, Annabelle Comes Home, where the teens are playing in the house, and one of the dumb kids decides to let Annabelle out, and
stupid.
You show that the Warrens come out towards the end, like, you can't be doing this. I told you not to go in this room.
Yeah,
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Thanks. Now I'm gonna have that voice in my head tonight. Not great, juice, dude. Nah, I'm like hearing the I didn't do it. After you spoke about doing this, you said you had watched the first one again, and so I was like, oh man, maybe I should go back and watch it. So I watched it last night at work.
Wow!
Oh, my boss isn't watching this.
brave. You mean work while you're sitting on the toilet? That's what he means. Work.
And I'm starting to notice, and I didn't see these things before because, this is my third, fourth time watching it. They drop a couple Easter eggs in their movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially in the first one. It's the scene, and the scene towards the end when everything happens. Actually, it's the end of the movie, and that's when I noticed it. And Ed brings that little music box to put it inside the room where they have all the scary artifacts.
Yes.
When he walks into the room, if you look on the wall, there's a picture of the nun on the wall.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she doesn't look demonic, but she looks like, like a regular person, but it still looks pretty creepy. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool. And they drop another little gem towards the end when they talk about, I got a call from whoever and we're going to go investigate this little house in Long Island. That's Amityville.
Yes.
So
wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, this is freaking sick. And these are all little things that I missed, first time around, because that's the last thing you're expecting. So now I want to go back to the second one and see if there's anything else, and I know you appreciate it. You're the king of Easter eggs because you always put me on the stuff that I'm like, jeez.
This is me. I'm telling you, man. This is me when I'm watching this kind of stuff. Marvel, Disney. Yeah, I'm like, look at that one. This one, I'm like, okay, yeah, I see it. There it is. Yep, Joe's right. That's right. Yep, there it is.
It's just gonna Google it.
Yeah, watching it again.
Get the screenshot.
Joe, what time of the movie was that? Because that's the site. That's the one that I want to go to. I'm not gonna watch everything else. But you know what's funny? You mentioned Amityville. The other day when we talked about doing this, I kind of just did a quick, thing of the Warrens, and they are one of the lead investigators in the Amityville story, and they were one of the first, or actually they were the second paranormal investigators to come in because there was a group before them, and that group couldn't figure anything out. Excuse me. So they called in the Warrens. The Warrens didn't take it because the Warrens are more into the whole, I just want the possessed, they want to investigate the possessed. I guess all of that happened after, but I would like to see a movie that shows them part of the Amityville whole everything. Like, like maybe they're going to do a reboot of Amityville, and maybe they're going to be like, okay, let's get the Warrens in here and bring in, Vera Farmiga and, and Patrick Wilson. I was going to say Ed O'Neill, but that's Al Bundy.
That'd be great too. I wouldn't mind seeing him.
Peg.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. When I heard that, I didn't hear that this time around. I had heard that like maybe the second time I watched the movie, and so I thought that's what they were going to do. But then they kind of started doing all the other movies, and I forgot about it. But I think that would be sick if they did a reboot, especially because I feel like Amityville, it's one of those stories that can be revisited and not feel old. It's been done twice, I think.
Yeah.
I really don't remember the first one too well. I was young. It might even come out before I was born. I thought the second one was done really well, but I still feel like someone can knock it out the park, and maybe the Conjuring crew could do it. Yeah, because they're really good at especially bringing so-called true stories to life.
James Wan, excuse me, if you were listening or watching Amityville, Conjuring the Amityville, that's what we want to see. That's what we all want to see. But I would suggest going back to watch the original or the first one that came out. I don't know, it was 78 or 1980, whatever that year was.
Yeah.
Before they came out with all the other ones. That one was creepy because one, it was in the 70s. Two, there was no CGI and they didn't do any of that. Everything was practical effects. And the story, they actually kept to the storyline and why the house was haunted and why the person was possessed. If you guys don't know the story, Amityville, a family moves into a house in Long Island, right? And the son ends up killing and murdering the family while they were asleep. And
Right.
he's saying that he was possessed. He was saying that someone told him to do it.
Yeah.
So, there you go. The devil made me do it. So,
And also, wasn't the Amityville like the house was haunted first, right? Was that the thing? And was that why the Warrens didn't want to take over it, because they were more about saving people that are possessed?
yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't want to do it, because you're right. The house was already haunted, so there was nothing there for them to investigate, right? There was nothing. There was no person that was possessed. The person who did kill the family, or the son that killed the family, he was already in jail and he wasn't showing any signs of any, demonic possessions. So they were like, well, we'll let the paranormal, because I think everybody there was just there because the family that got killed was still there haunting the place.
Oh, gotcha.
So there's that one creepy picture of one of the kids looking out the door. You can see him looking out the door, but he's been dead for like 4 days.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like, all right, the ones are like, this is more of a paranormal investigation than it is a demonic investigation. Plus, I don't think they could have picked up any more trinkets that they could put in their little man cave or whatever they have that in there.
Dude, serious. I mean, I know I've had a couple people ask me already, how could you live in your apartment in Staten Island for so long, for 20 years? And it's like, well, first off, I was a kid, so I couldn't afford to leave. But second, we didn't have, there's scary stuff, but I didn't have moving furniture. I didn't have voices. I didn't have, demonic beings standing in the background and looking at me. So, but I promise you, any of that stuff happened, my parents are like, we're out of here.
Gotta go.
So I can't imagine what it's like living, again, that one scene where they're playing the clapping game and
oh my God,
he comes home, everything. I'm leaving that night.
For you guys who don't know what we're talking about, we did a podcast. I'm trying to look for that podcast where me and Joe talked about our haunted experience. Joe talked about his house in New York. What part of New York?
Staten Island.
Staten Island, yeah, where he was seeing his sister in the living room or in the kitchen, but his sister wasn't even home.
Yep.
So his dad had the whistling guy in the kitchen. Yeah. That right there, that storyline right there makes me want to go check it out. But I know when I get there, it's that roller coaster effect. I can get on this ride. I'm not afraid. I'm the next one in line, you know what? Maybe I'm not gonna do this. I have a feeling I'm gonna be that whole 5-hour flight to New York. We're gonna do this when we get there. We're gonna do this, and as soon as I see that apartment building, I'll be like, you know what, Joe? Maybe we'll do this tomorrow. Maybe we'll.
What's funny is I feel like right now it is set up perfectly for a scary movie.
Oh, the way it looks.
Yeah, they renovated it, and so everything now looks new. As far the facade on the outside looks the same, but inside all the apartments were renovated, the hallway and everything. But I know behind all that new sheetrock,
yes,
is some old scary shit behind those walls and in that basement that I was trapped in. So, I don't know. I think that's a perfect. Maybe that'll be my my thing. Maybe I'll write my first horror screenplay about
that's a good topic to talk about too. I mean, if you can reach out to someone who's living there during the whole construction, because ghosts and spirits don't like anything being touched. So if they did a whole renovation, remodel that whole apartment, I'm pretty sure that pissed off a couple of people. It was like, hey, why are you breaking down a wall that's been here for 100 years?
Right. I wonder if they experienced any creepy stuff while they were I gotta watch Disney movie after this.
I'm watching them. You know what I'm going to watch after this? I'm going to watch Coming to America 2. That's going to make me forget all about ghost stories. But man,
seriously.
But see, the one good thing about The Conjuring, and again, we brought this up in the beginning, is how these are actual facts. These are true things. Now, this is one question I had written down for you. Besides the storyline and everything they talked about in the story and everything they showed us in the movie, how much of that do you think was actual true stories, and how much of it do you think was actually just, okay, let's just throw this in because it looks good for, movies?
Yeah. I think a lot of it, a lot of the special effects stuff, I think was added, like the things flying and people elevating and all that stuff. I think that's all just, for movie's sake. But as far as the story goes and what they've experienced and things, I would be willing to say about, maybe 75% of that stuff really happened to them at least. And that's the thing, things like this, you can't tell someone what they're seeing and believing is wrong. Like they very well may believe that they're seeing this shit and this stuff is happening, even though we may be skeptics, So when you believe in something, there's really nothing anyone can do to change your mind or help you. And you may just need someone like a priest or, a Warren to come and help you.
I would honestly trust the Warrens more than I would trust the priest. The Father Kastner guy, John Noble, great actor. When they showed his character, I was like, oh shit, this is the guy. This is the guy that has some. And it's funny because the whole time I thought he was the main protagonist in this whole movie, right?
Yeah.
And of course, when I watch a movie like this, any movies, I always try to jump ahead to see, okay, who's the bad person? I thought in the beginning, I thought it was the mom, the mom of the little
David Glatzel.
I thought it was her because she had a really small role. But when Arnie when he got possessed, and that creepy, the Oculus or what they call her was coming out. Oculus was coming out. I was like, shit, that's not the mom. Who the hell is this? Yeah. And when they started showing her, I was like, okay, who else could it be? There has to be, a trigger person. And then when they showed Father Kastner, I was like, he's a priest. He has this creepy little dungeon with all these little creepy, spoiler alert for you guys who haven't watched it, but this creepy things in there. He has something to do with it. I'm like, he has. He definitely has something to do with it.
I mean, for me, when you lose the priest in this sort of movie early on, you're kind of like, now what?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Who do we go to now?
Who do you go to now?
And another point, I'm sorry, that you're talking about these being stories, real stories. Another thing is that Ed Warren from my understanding, was the only like paranormal investigator that was acknowledged by the church, by the Vatican.
Yeah.
So for the Vatican to be like, yeah, no, he's the real deal. I mean, come on, like that just all of this adds to these movies. And if you're a religious person, especially, and you're watching these movies, it's going to creep you out. It's going to scare you. You're going to be up late at night.
Now, in any of the Conjurings, and let me know, because I don't know. If you guys know, let us know. If you know, let me know. But in any of these Conjurings, does it actually show or tell us how Ed and Lorraine got started? Like, what was their very first, like, oh shit, this must be paranormal. Let's go investigate this.
I don't recall that. I mean, they may have, but I feel like I would have remembered something like that. But that may be a good premise for a movie, a prequel, Conjuring the Beginning or something like that.
Like, I mean, I'm trying to think it, and I can't think of anything. I mean, was Annabelle even their first paranormal thing that they got? Was
No, because Annabelle was later. Annabelle was after that family, the first family in the
this she was. So I don't know. I mean, that would be. I mean, like in this one that they showed us in and The Devil Made Me Do It, they just kept talking about, we met and it was raining and we ate under a gazebo. We ate the ice cream under the gazebo. So maybe that's a teaser of what's maybe there was something in that gazebo that they made them fall in love, and they're like
you might be onto something, because in the first, I believe in the first one or the second one, they kind of allude to another case that really screwed Elizabeth up, and Ed, and because of that, every movie Ed is really afraid of her getting too close. Each one takes more and more out of her. He's afraid that because she's kind of open to this stuff, that she could get possessed and things like that. But they mentioned another case, and it hasn't, from what I understand, it hasn't been touched on in any of the movies. So maybe that's their first case, or maybe that'll be something they go back to and explain.
Yeah,
how they became who they are. You
mean Lorraine, right? Lorraine.
Yeah, Lorraine.
Not Elizabeth.
Who's Elizabeth Warren?
she's from Insidious. Damn you, James Wan, bringing the same people over. Man. No, but let me ask you this: how would you want? Okay, would you want to be married to someone who can do what she does? Just that whole scene in this one where she was they were in the forest, and they're trying to figure out how the person died. Then they go to the morgue, which I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
Couldn't you at least wait till daytime to find out what's going on? I mean, yeah. I couldn't. I'll be honest with you. I'm too much of a chicken. I grew up with my grandmother who was very spiritual and was a clairvoyant, and could see things and stuff like that. So, which is why these type of movies resonate with me. But just seeing the stuff that because it wasn't easy for my grandmother. A lot of people think, people just say that stuff like, Chloe type stuff. No, she didn't want to be able to see stuff. She didn't she went to the hospital when she was a kid. She hated this stuff. So knowing what my grandmother went through, as a kid, I don't think I could be married to someone who has those powers and that job and does that stuff now. You're like, no, sorry.
It's babe, want to come with me to the morgue today? No, I'm good.
I would, but
let me hear you say my name. Come on.
Oh, sorry.
Let me hear you say my name.
Sorry, this is one of the recordings from Conjuring 2.
That's not my name.
But I'm not going to listen to it.
Yeah, that's actual footage, by the way.
Recording. Yeah, actual recordings from
actual recordings.
Yeah. Now I was trying to look for something to freak Joe out in the middle, and that thing popped up and it freaked me out. So now I'm not.
Well, it worked.
I'm actually closing that page right now. I'm not even. I don't look at that. Sorry, because it was creepy. Never mind. Yeah. No, I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't either. I mean, it's like 1 minute, it's like you're looking at your wife, and next minute she's like, "He's over here." I'm like,
yeah.
Who the fuck are you talking to? Who are you talking about? Where are you? And he kept telling her, Lorraine, get out of it. Lorraine, snap the connection. I mean, that whole morgue scene to me was freaking me out. It's like, now you got this big guy. I mean, look, where did he even come from? Right? Was he one of the dead bodies there?
I think he was one of the dead bodies. He was a healthy dead body, though. Jesus.
He just comes out of nowhere. And I was like, shit. And, again, spoiler alert for you guys who haven't watched it, but he had a massive heart attack. They had to put a stent in his heart, right?
Yeah.
How the hell are you up?
Dude. And shout out to, one thing about all three of the movies, I don't know if this is the same person, but the special effects makeup is amazing. Oh, yeah. The way it's so subtle, but the way they make these people look crazy, like when they're possessed with the eyes and that to me, anything and I've said it before, this is why zombies scare me the most out of anything. Anything that looks humanoid, that was a human or looks like a human, it's to me way scarier than like a monster or anything like that.
I mean, just like you said, Arnie's makeup in the beginning, when he gets possessed, it's like he goes from flesh colored to all of a sudden he's like just pale.
Yeah.
To any normal person, that's like, okay, what's wrong with this guy? But in this movie, you're like, oh shit, this guy is possessed. When
the cop pulls him over when he's walking down the street and he turns around and you see his eyes, I'm like, oh my God, run.
Yeah, they should have played that scene, that song, Run. Dun, 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 dun. Well, what made me laugh about that scene was like, okay, it was an African American officer. Mm-hmm. The guy comes out and I'm like, this doesn't look good because there's a white dude with blood all over him, right?
Yep.
He turns around and he goes, I think I did something bad. Blood all over him. The cop is like already reaching for his gun. He's like, I'm like, dude.
Dude, if I would have seen that guy's eyes and skin looking like that, I'd have just slowed down. Like, well, everything looks good here.
Yeah, I know. How did you not see that? Right? It's like the guy's walking down the street. There's blood, like literally his whole torso and his arms filled with blood. And you walk right by him. You get the call because someone said call. Oh no, Lorraine called the sheriff. Right? Lorraine's the one that called him and told him to come out. You see this guy coming out. Like, dude, when I'm driving, I kind of see everything around me. And if I saw this guy in the middle of a country road, I'd be like, "Yep, Base, I didn't see nothing here today. I got a call from the diner. I think I'm gonna go head over there where there's a lot of people."
So a cat stuck in a tree on Main Street, so I'm gonna go assist the fire department.
Yeah, no, I mean that would have been me. I would have been the most, like you said, I would have been like, "Oh shit, that dude, nope, not looking." Not looking.
And the first Conjuring, the mom,
oh my God.
When they have the sheet over her, and then at some point the sheet breaks and you see part of her face, and at that point she's fully possessed.
God,
Man.
why'd you put that fucking vision in my head? Oh God, I don't even want to think about that.
And like for the makeup person, how are you not getting freaked out as you're doing it? I mean, that's just so scary. Like, I can't. I mean, that's why. What's the woman who's in The Exorcist? The girl, the main girl, I guess, was it Linda Blair?
Yeah.
I don't think she had a movie career after that because she scared everybody.
Nope.
Like, isn't that crazy? She did that was such a huge movie, and I mean, she's done some roles in movies, but nothing memorable. I wonder if something. She was cursed because of that movie, she was.
I mean, if you were a dude back then and you're like, hey, you're Linda Blair, and you're sitting in the drive-in or wherever you guys are back then, and she decides to fuck with you and go, get out. I'd be like, I gotta go. Yeah, no. I mean,
she even moves her head slightly this way.
No, I mean, I think anybody who does any kind of sci-fi, especially horror movie, I can handle the Saws and I can handle the It's and all that stuff, but when you're possessed by a devil and your voice is like changing, Linda Blair's career after that didn't really go anywhere. And she was, for one, it's funny because you get typecast for more than one movie or one TV show. She was typecast for one. You're like, no, we're not, this girl's possessed, we're not going to handle her, we're not going to take her, no,
she's done.
I mean, look at the whole Poltergeist series, right?
Yep.
Everyone said, don't do this movie because this is what's going to happen. And sure enough, they didn't listen. And slowly one of them died, So it's like. Yep.
That's why, again, when I feel like these movies that are, loosely based or based on real stories, I feel like you're almost playing with that energy because if that demon or that spirit or whatever really exists and you're watching movies and you're talking about it and you're gonna bring it into existence. At least that's what I feel like. Or it's almost like Candyman. You say his name enough times and he pops up.
That's one.
So
that's one. Don't say it 2 more times.
So that's the only thing for me that's always in the back of my mind of like, should I be watching this?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll chill. Maybe I'll watch 2 and like, okay, I want some family friendly stuff for a little while because I don't want that vibe near me, But it could just be me.
No, it's me too. I mean, it's like you're right. It's like my son the other night when this came on Friday night, right? It came out Friday. Of course, they don't have school, so they watch it Thursday midnight, and he was like, I had to go watch SpongeBob after I watched this because I was like, well, what the hell were you doing watching it at like 2 a.m. anyways? He's like, well, it first came out, and I was like, you had to be the first one to watch it? It was like, well, kind of. I'm like, well, look what happened.
Exactly. I learned my lesson with The Exorcist. I watched that. It was already, it had been out for a couple of years, and it was a marathon. They were playing the first and second one back to back. And but they were just kind of replaying them throughout the night. And so I watched the second one first with my cousin and wasn't all that, scared. It was scary, but it was like, I was expecting more. And that's because I hadn't watched the first one yet. And then the first one comes on 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes into it. My cousin's like, okay, I'm going to sleep.
Yep.
She goes to sleep. I think I was about 11, 12 years old. I watched about another good half hour. And I was like, okay, this is enough. And I went to sleep. And I had to wake up the next day when everybody was awake to finish it again, because I was like, this is too scary. And I'm not going to lie, I was traumatized by that movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, from we talked about this when we talked about scary movies. That's still my all-time scariest movie ever. I mean, I would not even, if it's on, it's skipped, because I'm not gonna watch it. I mean, there's just, what we talked about this when we did our whole horror thing. When it comes to, a zombie, when it comes to maybe a haunted house, a poltergeist, I can watch those movies because, yeah, they're scary. But when it comes to God versus the devil, any movie when it comes to that, Conjuring, Exorcist, shit, I am not going to watch it just because it's, there's this one movie that came out called The Prince of Darkness. It's an 80s flick. The dude from Big Trouble in Little China, the guy who played Egg, the old man, and then the other Asian guy was in that movie. And it had something to do with, they find this old ruin, this church underneath a church. There's this big whatever inside that church. And lo and behold, this whole time, the church was hiding the soul of the devil. And what do these people do? They release the soul.
It. Oh, of course.
And yeah, so it's like, now you got to find a way to survive. I mean, that movie was such a B-rated movie. It still freaked me out because it had something to do with the devil versus God. Yeah. So every time you do anything like that, Devil versus God, Exorcist being one of the first scary ones, because that was the first time I was introduced to, some kind of faith, because I think throughout the whole movie, I was like, oh God, please end this movie. Oh God, please end this movie. I mean, it was a freaky thing. Now here we are in the 2000s watching something that happened in the 70s. And you're like, oh shit, what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely right. And what's that other one? The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh my God, yeah.
That movie doesn't get I don't know, you don't hear that much praise about it, and I'm wondering if it's because it was just that good and that scary. No one wants to.
I think it's the actress that played her. It's like we seriously just saw her on White Chicks, right? She was one of the girls on White Chicks. We just saw her being a fool, acting stupid, and then now you're supposedly possessed by if they took a little, like the little boy, Julian Hillard, who played David, right?
Yeah.
Never seen him before. I've never seen him before. He comes out, blows it out of the park with his little acting and his crazy shit. Now, if they did that with the Exorcism of Emily Rose and just picked a person that, and it's not her fault, maybe she did Emily Rose before, White Chicks, and White Chicks just happened to, explode. No one thought it was going to be a good movie. But that movie to me was like, it was good. It was scary. But I think if they found, a different actress, I think,
agreed. Yeah. But my point to that was just anything like piggybacking off what you said, anything that has to do with that, with God and religion and the devil, because even that movie not being the greatest, I still couldn't watch it by myself. I was still kind of like, all right, this is, a little creepy.
Yeah.
It's just that element of religion, and then the element of the Warrens, who were real people, and these are real cases, just all of that. I mean, going into these movies, knowing all this stuff, if you haven't seen any of the Conjurings, you go into the Conjuring, I promise you're going to be scared shitless.
What I love about the way they're doing it, the way they did the Conjuring, from Conjuring to Annabelle to the Nun to all this stuff, you don't have to watch them in order either. I mean, it might help if you watch them in order. Joe did mention Easter eggs and like certain things you might see in the background. Shit. I heard that in here. I heard that in my headphones, and I'm like,
I'm sorry. I'm nervous talking about this stuff, and I was playing with something. I dropped it.
Oh God. But yes, you could watch them in any order, and you won't be thrown off. Like, wait, did they show this in the first one? Did they show this in the second?
Right.
Because they're just taking true stories that the Warrens went and investigated, and then they're putting them into, movie forms. Now, speaking of Easter eggs, did you see that one Easter egg that ties into Exorcist?
No, I didn't see that.
So in the beginning of the movie, when the priest comes, they said, call the priest. We need the priest now. We can't wait. The priest gets out of the taxi cab, and he's standing in the light, and they show the house in the distance, and they just show the silhouette of the priest, right? In the movie The Exorcist, it's the same. I don't want to say the same scene, but the priest is coming to the house, standing underneath the light post, looking up, and it's just a silhouette of the priest looking up at the apartment that they're about to go to.
Oh, cool. So it's kind of maybe like an homage to The Exorcist. That's pretty cool. See, I want to go back and watch that, but not for a good year.
No, yeah. I mean, all you got to do is Google The Exorcist cover or the DVD cover, and it shows that priest, standing there. But yeah, Exorcist is not even on my list to watch any,
At all. But again, back to my theory. Did you see the last Exorcist? Like Origins or something like that?
Is that the one where they were in the cave?
Yeah. Again, it's really hard to do a third, fourth, and fifth scary movie of a series. When you look at the first Exorcist, one of the scariest, if not scariest, movies ever made, and then you look at the last one, it was ridiculous. The girl looked like Britney Spears at the end, just coming out with all the light, and I was just like, "Oh, this is so bad. They should have just left it alone."
And that's the funny thing you mentioned that, because I think I texted you a while ago when we were doing haunted stuff, and they were showing that on TV, and the only thing that made that scary was they had to bring back that old Linda Blair devil character.
Yeah,
they had to bring that back because that's what did it in the first Exorcist. It's like the acting of Linda Blair, the spiritual part of the devil versus, God, and then the makeup that they put on Linda Blair, that to me is embedded in my head forever.
Yeah.
So in this one that you're talking about, the origin, they had to do something because like no one's going to watch it. It's like, come on, dude. The second one sucked. No one watched the second one.
So bad.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the Captain Howdy.
Captain Howdy. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean... anything. I mean, I honestly, I picked up, stuff with the Warrens, and I'm trying to find out a lot about them and their family. I want to know if the daughter's still around, right? I want to know if all that stuff is still there in their house, because I think the mom's still alive. I think Lorraine Warren's still alive. I know Ed passed away. I think the mom's still alive. So I want to know, what are you guys going to do with all that stuff?
Yeah, really. Because like he says in the movie, if you, those are in the first movie, there's a reporter who comes to interview Ed, and he asks him, aren't you scared of having all this stuff in your house? Why don't you just destroy it? And he said that these objects are just a vessel. So you destroy it, it's going to release the demon. Yeah. So he says, sometimes it's better just to keep the genie in the bottle, was the line he used. And then he said it's probably safer here than anywhere else. But with him gone, and she eventually passes away, what are they going to do with all that stuff? Is it just going to release all the demons? Somebody's going to come and start to do a yard sale and sell it, and we have a whole new generation of hauntings? Like, what the hell? And the original Annabelle doll was a Raggedy Ann doll, which to me was even scarier than the fucking Annabelle doll that they had in the movie. So that'd be interesting to see what happens.
It makes me wonder why they changed it. I'm pretty sure James Wan had a reason why he changed it from, the doll in the movie Annabelle looks creepy, but like you said, if they took an Raggedy Ann and they made that shit possessed, I'd freak out over that stuff in a heartbeat.
I wonder if, I don't know how this works, but I would think when that story originated, that's probably bad publicity for the Raggedy Ann company. Yeah. And they don't want people scared of their doll. So I would assume maybe they don't want anything to do with it. Not that they still make those dolls, but still, that's the only thing I could assume would be, they're like, look, don't mess up our dolls.
They still make those dolls. Unfortunately, they do.
Yeah, because Child's Play, another scary movie, I had My Buddy. I don't know if you guys remember My Buddy.
My Buddy.
That was kind of loose. The Child's Play doll was loosely based on My Buddy doll. And they fucked it up for every kid my age that had that doll. As soon as I got home after the movie, told my mom to throw it away. She put it in the closet, and that was it. Like, I didn't see it till I was older, and I got rid of it. It ruined My Buddy for me.
No. My cousin had a My Buddy, and when we first saw Chucky, I was like, "That's in your closet." He's like, "Nope, it's in the garage." Yeah, no. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the reason why a lot of toys, or hauntings, they don't use a real, something for that reason. But to me, seeing a Raggedy Ann is going to be more freakier than I mean, that doll in Annabelle is freaky. The origins of Annabelle and how the spirit went into Annabelle was freaky.
Yeah.
But me trying to think of like the hell, the real one is a Raggedy Ann doll. It's like that right there is already freaky.
That makes it even more real, because every kid back then had a Raggedy Ann doll. My cousins had them when I was little. That's why that's creepy to me. She even had the curtains, so it's like, all those little details just add on layers to how scary these movies are. Especially first one.
Thank God there was not no haunted G.I. Joe movie or G.I. Joe that got possessed or any of those. Because I swear to God, I'd pull them apart in a heartbeat, Yeah. No, man. But yeah, man, the movie, and again, I went out and I checked out, thank you for HBO Max for letting us watch all the Conjurings that's out right now. To me, the creepiest out of all, if I had to pick from the whole series, I'm still, one is still always going to be the creepiest, but to me, the Nun is still creepy from just because you're dealing with, nuns. And if you guys haven't watched, the 2018 version of The Nun, go watch it. It's creepy as hell.
I agree 100%. I went to Catholic school when I was younger. Shout out to Sister Mary Judith. That was our principal that everyone was afraid of because we said she knew karate. She had a black belt. She had one of those paddles hanging up in her.
Oh my God. And she was a nun too, right?
Yeah. So nuns scare me when they probably shouldn't, but
they shouldn't. Yeah, they should be all peaceful and holy.
But yeah, the Nun, I agree with you. That was one of the first ones, like I was saying before, where you're not safe in the movie, whether it's daytime or nighttime. There's that one scene where she's in the room and it's completely lit except for that one dark corner where the picture is of the nun. And I don't have to like get into it. You already know because you're getting scared. I can tell your face. But yeah, they were just so good. It's those little things. They don't. It's not right away jump out you, scare you. It's such a slow build up and it intensifies as the movie gets to the end. So when you're done, you're just drained. Like, man, And for me, I know people say like, why do you? Some people are like, why do you watch scary movies? Why do you go through that? The fact that a movie can affect me like physiologically to where I'm scared, goosebumps, I'm sweating, I'm hot, I'm nervous. I think that's amazing because I can't tell you how many movies I've watched, scary or not, and I'm just kind of just staring at it bored. But to really physically be affected by a movie, I mean, that's talent to me. I think from the acting, the makeup, the directors, even Michael Chavez, he did a great job. I think because that's kind of hard trying to follow up those first two and all the other ones in the universe, Conjuring universe.
Yeah. No, I mean, for him to say, yes, let's do it. Yes, let's do it this way. And kind of kept to the tradition that James Wan did. Yeah, the jump scares weren't as scary, but it's still the build up to it was like, it was still scary. I mean, do I want to see a fourth? Then, I mean, I definitely want to. I mean, I feel like I'm invested already,
Yeah. It's funny because I was going to ask you that as far as, and not just The Conjuring, with just all the movies. Do you feel like there's a limit? You know what I mean? Like, is there that one movie that's just going to be too much? They should have stopped. You know, because I kind of feel like that about Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that. I mean, when it comes to movies, like the Saw series, it's like, what else can you do? I mean, they decide they're going to bring Chris Rock in this new one. It's not even called Saw anymore. It's called something else, right?
I don't know.
Whatever,
I gave up on that. Like,
whatever it's called.
Saw 3 was the last one I watched.
But it's just kind of like this. We know what it's about. The good thing about The Conjuring and the Warrens is that they have unlimited stories that they can do movies on. If James Wan Chavez goes, hey, this one looks interesting. You want to do this.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure they're going to go to Lorraine Warren and their daughter, Judy, who's in charge of everything going on right now. I think the son-in-law is in charge of everything going on right now. If they say, yes, let's make this into a movie, now we're watching something that really did happen, that they're just putting it on film. Where Saw, it's kind of like, and Fast and Furious, it goes to the Fast and Furious too. It's kind of like, what's going to happen. The guy's going to try to chop his arm off to get out. Toretto is going to say family 1,000 times. It's kind of,
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
You're right. Where do you go from here? And, Tyrese said it the best. It's like, this is the only way we can get paid. Like, shit, he was mad at The Rock for not wanting to do, Hobbs and Shaw or to do Hobbs and Shaw. And, it's like, I think these guys, outside of what they're doing, they got nothing else to do. And I think that's what it is. Outside of Fast and Furious, they got nothing else to do. And I'm pretty sure, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga is like, I can do it if I don't. It doesn't matter to me if we do it or not.
Yeah, I mean, they still. I was watching. I forget what season of the Fargo series, and Patrick Wilson's in that, and he's great. So yeah, it's not that they need it at all. I mean, they've created this body of work that I think is awesome. And what's also cool about it is that you kind of have three series within the umbrella of the Conjuring, because you have the Annabelle series, even though they're all related, but you have kind of the Annabelle series, you have the Warrens and the Conjuring, then you have the Nun series. So I feel like there's still room for them to do a couple more, but I'm nervous that they're just going to beat a dead horse, that there's going to be that one movie that it was like, they phoned it in or something like that. That's my fear, because I really like this franchise, if you want to call it that.
I mean, if that happens, then then it happens. I mean, it's one of those things where, you're right. If they decide to keep doing it and decide to keep going off whatever's going off, that's up to the directors now. That's up to them. If that's something they're gonna do, I mean, I hope they don't. I hope they keep this storyline and the Warrens, storyline. I mean, they did something on TV. I don't know if you've seen it, where they did talk about the Warrens and talk about you know what? That's funny. They did talk about why they got into it, but I don't remember what it was. It was one of those like Ghost-tober kind of things, when they were showing all the ghost stuff on History Channel, and they talked about them. And I think they even did it when Ed died. They did a whole storyline of why the Warrens got started, and I totally forgot why. But yeah, I want them to succeed in this franchise. I mean, I think this is one genre versus, like, if you do Fast and Furious versus slasher movies, hauntings and demonics, possession is one genre that people can never get sick and tired of. I just think, we can watch another, Conjuring, and it shows a dog getting possessed by the devil and the dog's doing this, and we'll still be like, I'm not getting a dog.
Yeah. I have the same reaction every time a new Conjuring movie or Annabelle or whatever. I do okay, I'm gonna watch this, but am I ready? It's that kind of, I don't want to go through it, but I do. I need to know what happens.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's funny because this one, the Conjuring 1 was just called The Conjuring. Conjuring 2, there was a name to it, but I forgot what that name, this is the first one where they actually said The Conjuring, the devil made me do it.
Yeah.
To us, we know it's the third one. So, there's room. There is room for them to do more things and show us, maybe they will go back, prequel, and, maybe Ed has to like win Lorraine's heart, but Ed has this deep secret that, hey, I like hauntings and I like, this,
Yeah, that's what I wonder too, was, were they both already doing their thing when they met each other, or was she a clairvoyant, saw the stuff and it got him into it? That's what they do need to do an origin.
Yeah. And you know what? They probably will. They're probably going to see like, okay, let's see how this does on HBO Max. And if I can get enough people, and maybe they don't even need to call it The Conjuring, maybe they can call it The Warrens, the beginning, or something like that. And like you said, don't tie this in with The Conjuring or the Annabelle, but tie this into the Warrens and show us how they got started and go from there.
Maybe show us their first case.
Yeah. Maybe he was the first case and she was investigating. I mean, we don't know. We don't know the story. I mean, besides what they talked about in this movie about the whole ice cream and they did their first kiss. That's all we know.
Yeah.
We don't know anything else about that. But man.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
I am going to go on HBO Max and I'm going to go watch something friendly as soon as we get off of here, because this whole demonic possession thing is, to me, the most creepiest, scariest anything. I can go to a cemetery. I can go watch, like I said, Poltergeist, those movies, they freak me out, but they don't scare me. The Saw series, they freak me out, but they don't scare me. Right here. This right here. And plus the fact that they got actual footage and tape on it. Yeah.
I have to say this movie had the scariest actual footage or sound, I think. Even that little bit that that it's terrifying.
That was from the second one too. It wasn't even from the first one.
That wasn't the recent one.
Yeah, that was the second one. And that one, it's funny because that one's called it just says Spirit. Oh no, it was Valak. So Valak was the nun. So that one's called Valak, the spirit voice. Oh shit, yeah, I'm definitely, that's not, let me unhide, let me flag this. Let me flag this video. But man, for us to be gone for 3 weeks on a podcast,
3 weeks,
and to talk about something like this, man, it feels good to be back, man. That's all I can say. It feels good to be back. And thank you for HBO Max for giving us something to talk about. And we again, like you guys know, by now, me and Joe always has a topic that we're gonna fall back on, and up to Thursday, I said, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this. I'm not going to tell you because we're going to eventually talk about that again. And then I watched this movie. When did I watch this movie? Saturday? Is that when I text you?
You watched it Saturday. Yeah. Because that was the other creepy thing was I watched it Friday and I told my wife, I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe this is something we can, to kind of carry on our last review thing. I was like, maybe we can talk about The Conjuring. And before I got to text you, you texted me, hey, do you want to do The Conjuring? I'm like, son of a bitch, it's already creepy.
What's funny about that whole thing, right? Is like, you're watching it, or I'm watching it, and I'm like, what's the chances of Joe actually already watching this, right? So I said, well, the movie's about to start. There's like 20, maybe 10 minutes of the beginning parts of the movie before they show the credit, right? Before they show Conjuring, the devil made me do it. I text him and I say, hey, do you want to talk about this? And in my head, I'm like, please say no. Because if he said yes, I'd have to pay attention a little bit more to the movie than I really, really wanted to.
You had to put your phone down.
I had to put my phone down. And sure enough, he's like, get out of my head. I was thinking the same thing. And I'm like, great, he said yes. So I'm like, all right, we'll talk about this. And, I was picking up this and that and this and the movie. I had to pay attention, which I really didn't want to, but I did. And I'm glad I did because, the movie turned out to be a good movie.
My wife watches the same way you do on her phone. She listens to it. And then I watched the first one just before early when I got home, and she didn't want to watch it. And so she had the door open in the room and she's just listening to it in the room. And I had the volume pretty loud. And she's like, that sounds scary. I'm like, it's actually scarier just to listen to it, honestly. Because there's build up and there's the scary music, but nothing's going on. You're just listening to scary music. So you're like the whole time, like, what the hell's going on now?
Especially when she hears the little kid, get out of my yeah. That's scarier than Red Rum.
Yeah.
To me, the little Red Rum voice the little boy does in Shining, that to me is freaky. But this kid's voice and hearing the actual footage is freakier than Red Rum.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know how much of his contortioning was makeup because there's a good part of it where you can tell it's still him. And then it just does that crunching, cracking, and I was just like, oh, why?
And when
why is he on the kitchen table?
When Arnie did that scene when he was in jail and he did that whole movie.
Yeah.
I was seriously, I'm going to go back to that one scene because like you said, I want to see how much of that is actual real and how much of that was CGI, because that to me was like, you had to get someone who can do that in order for him to do that, to make it look real. Now, for David Glatzel, do you have somebody young enough that could actually do that?
Like, I can do it, yeah.
Was that CGI, you know?
Exactly. Because, I mean, I know kids are kind of naturally flexible when they're young anyway. They're not old and their cartilage isn't hard.
Yeah.
But, yeah, when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, man, that's pretty cool. And I'm thinking to myself, is this kid really doing that? Like,
yeah.
And then, but there was just that one part that I was like, yeah, no, that's not him.
Yeah, no, I mean,
please, that's CGI, please.
Now, the question that I want to know, and the question I'm going to have, and I'm going to throw this out to you, and I'm going to throw this out to the ether, is, does this kid, Julian Hillard, still have a chance in Hollywood to be something other than a possessed demonic boy? Or is he just like Linda Blair and all those other people typecast to where we're not gonna get you because you're this scary demonic kid?
Yeah. I think he has a chance, in my opinion, only because The Exorcist was such a big movie when it came out. There was nothing else at the time that was out there. Maybe, I'm not sure where the Poltergeist movies fall in relation to Exorcist, but there wasn't that that scary movie yet.
Yeah.
And so when that came out, it took the country and everyone by storm, and it essentially made her name from that movie. I don't know that this kid is going to even, that this movie is big enough for him to be in the limelight like that. I think he'll get, for his performance, he's going to get a lot of praise, but I don't think it's, big enough that it's going to affect his career as far as being typecast. Just in my opinion. I don't know. I could be wrong.
It's funny because I'm looking at his IMDb page right now, and besides The Conjuring, he was in a movie in 2018 called The Haunting of the Hill House. I've never seen that. Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. Okay. I don't know if that's called City. City of Angels. He was in that.
Yeah, Penny Dreadful.
And then he was also in WandaVision. So was he one of the kids in WandaVision? Oh, he was one of the kids in WandaVision.
Interesting.
Oh shit, he was the older kid. He was the older. Well, they're twins. He was the one that had. He didn't have the super speed. He was the other kid.
No way.
Yeah, he's that.
And it didn't even look like him.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Oh my God, it is him. I was like, oh shit. I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, oh man.
Cool. Which, by the way, I finished WandaVision, FYI.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, wow, this is that kid?
I know, he does. And honestly, he kind of looks younger in The Conjuring. I wonder if this was filmed a while ago.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to wonder if this was filmed a while ago, because in WandaVision, he does look older. Mm-hmm. And this one, he looks a lot younger. So I'm going to have to be doing some reading here to see what's going on.
I mean, that happens a lot. That was something I found out when I was a kid. A classmate of mine, he's an actor. He's actually a pretty decent actor. And he was in this movie called Welcome to a Dollhouse. And it was like what's that?
Was it scary?
No.
Okay.
No, it was an indie film. I'm sure some people have heard of it. And when he had told us about it, we watched it. I was in high school. He was like 11 or 12. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? And he was like, no, I did this movie years ago. It's just finally got picked up. Yeah. And that was when I learned that movies are sitting around done waiting for, someone to pick it up and put it out there. So that could have been the case with that. Maybe it was just done a few years ago, pre-COVID. Maybe COVID, COVID screwed a lot of people up movie-wise. Nobody wanted to drop anything during that time. So who knows? Which I'm excited for, because I feel like now we're going to get a lot of new movies this year and a few years after. It's like a backup of movies that from 2020 that didn't come out. So
yeah, I mean when I was speaking to on my podcast, I was speaking to a couple actress who was on the Marvel series. They did tell me that there is some movies that they didn't get to finish or release because of COVID that either is ready to be released or they need to just tie up some loose ends before they can release it. So yeah, we're already seeing this right now just on Disney, Disney Plus. I mean, like hell, Loki's coming out next week.
Can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. Loki's coming out next week. What else? We're still waiting for Scarlett Johansson's movie, Black Widow to come out. So yeah, I mean,
they're doing a Blade.
Yeah, Blade. Oh man, I can't wait for Blade. I kind of wish Wesley Snipes was still in it, but that's something we can talk about in a different show. But, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot, and maybe this kid right here, maybe Julian Hillard was, maybe like he looked like he was about 10 years old in this movie, right? And then in WandaVision, he looked like he was probably like 12 or 13, maybe.
Yeah. I would say.
And kids, when they age, they look different within a year or two. So
seriously, because I just watched WandaVision and recently, and I did not recognize him at all.
Yeah, I mean,
I was super gassed about the character he played, because I was doing my research and I was like, oh, there's so many origin stories in this. So I just really did not. Then again, he did look like a little demon on the table, so maybe that.
And it was the glasses too, right? The glasses, and it's funny because his IMDb page picture is glasses, so it's like he has glasses. I guess that's what he is. It's just I just didn't recognize him as the. I forget what his name was in WandaVision. It's Tommy and Billy or
I
Billy.
forget their names.
Michael John
Fasty and just make up names.
Fasty and Wandy. Yeah. It's Vision and No Vision. That was the kids.
No vision. Blurred vision.
It's near side and far side.
That's when they're gonna return to it when they're older.
Yeah. Don't listen to us. We're not. This whole thing that we talked about has nothing to do with anything. So
yeah.
Man, Joe, it was fun to be back. It's fun to do this whole thing,
yes,
and I definitely love going back. I hate talking about hauntings, but I love going back and talking about what we experienced in movies. It makes me have to watch the movie a little bit more, which is good on my end because I hate paying attention to movies, especially watching it at home on the couch. Now you have to pay attention to it. But this was actually a good one to pay attention to and to actually, watch because it was a true story. And to be able to talk about it, with the Ordinary Joes was kind of a good thing for me. So, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad we're back. And then
thank you, sir. Yeah, man.
Next week we can, I don't know. Well, again.
Well, there's a couple things we could talk about off air, but yeah, I think it's been long enough that we probably got some things, that we can come up with.
And this
but yeah, man, like you said, though, it's feels good to be back. I missed you. I miss our fans, our listeners, the feedback we get, when I'm at work. Oh, dude, I was listening to this and people chiming in afterwards. Like it really does. It makes it fun knowing we have our little family. And so what you were saying, like, as far as watching, makes you watch the movies and pay attention. Same here. I mean, I've watched movies for the sake of the podcast that we've seen maybe a million times, just to get a refresher and paying attention to it. Like, Back to the Future, for instance, I was on the other day and I'm like on podcast mode because I'm picking up on all these little things. I'm like, man, maybe we should go back to the Future. Like there's, I watch movies differently now because of the podcast and it makes them that much better.
If we did Back to the Future, sorry, Joe, I'm going to be taking up the whole show because I cannot. That's my favorite movie. Everyone who ever asks, what's your favorite movie of all time? It's always going to be the Back to the Future series, and only because of what it is. But that's something that, we can talk about it on a different day. But man, yes, it is. Everything is done differently now. Everything I will get a text from somebody, hey, maybe you and Joe can talk about this, or maybe you can do this on your show. Maybe this, everything is done because of the podcast, which is kind of cool because, we got to pay a little more attention to what we're doing. We got to pay a little more attention to what the internet is saying. And again, we were going to come into this topic, talk about something totally different that has nothing to do with HBO Max. It has nothing to do with Conjuring, but this came out and we know this is what's everyone's going to be talking about right now. So we said, you know what? Let's talk about The Conjuring.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Even though it freaked me the hell out. Let's.
I won't sleep tonight, but it was for you guys.
Yeah, I got to sleep tonight. Unfortunately, I got an early shift tomorrow. But yes, I watched La Lorena the other night, or La Llorena for you.
La Llorona.
Llorona. Sorry, Lorena. La Llorona. Yeah, that movie creeped me the hell out. And even though it didn't do good in the box office, it still had something to do with the devil versus, God.
Yep.
And
I know where that takes us.
Yes. That takes us to the end of the show.
Yep.
Joe, it's been fun. It's been fun. Welcome back. And, this is for us, being back on So we'll definitely be back next week with a different topic, different thing. Again, follow us on the Ordinary Joe's Podcast at gmail.com, the Ordinary Joe's Podcast on Instagram, and wherever else you can find us. Joe has his.
We're out there.
Yeah, I have mine. We have our stuff. Just find us everywhere there. I had to wear Ice Cube today just because I knew Ice Cube was going to make me happy. I had to keep reminding myself after we talked about this show was, today's going to be a good day.
So you're going to put on some Ice Cube right after this.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to some Ice Cube, and I think I'm going to listen to No Vaseline because that's the only song that will make me happy after talking about the devil.
Yep. Sounds good. I'm going to turn on all the lights right now.
Yeah, that's definitely the next thing I'm going to do. It's like, you can't tell, but yes, the lights are off because of this light. But yeah,
light.
Check this out. If I turn this off.
Jeez. Yeah, it's kind of the same with me.
How do I turn it on? What do I turn it on? Jesus Christ.
And that's a great fucking light.
Annabelle's right behind Joe's shoulder.
See, and I had the red color today. Jeez.
It's funny. Throughout this whole show, I'm not lying to you, man. I kept looking over that red corner right there, and I was getting ready to be like, son of a bitch.
It's backwards, but you can see.
I can see it. It says "miss me." It's frontwards.
Man. It's backwards for me. Okay, good.
Oh man, you're seeing something different. Yeah, Joe did the whole "miss me" sign again, so I gotta go.
All right, guys.
It's been fun. Till next week, we are the Ordinary Joes.
Peace.
See ya.
Ordinary Joe's Podcast.